I just fascinated by listening to her and then seeing what she's doing with this project and how it's developed. And as you browse through it, as we talked, what a fantastic opportunity for the kids, let alone sharing it out to the those that find it and do a little research into her project and what it's all about.
It was a gold mine. If you had to describe it as anything, it was a gold mine of information. And you got an instructor who's just passionate and maintaining it. And that's, paper, you can do that, but then you've got to republish it and redistribute it. And digital, and she brought up that point of, videos were coming and going, interactives were coming and going. And that is a little bit distressing. And probably because websites, storage costs.
And you almost wish you could contact them before it happens. Go, if you're going to ditch it, is there a way you would allow me to save it? Because it's a very important part to my project.
Yeah.
And you wish some of the news agencies realize that, because it's depriving a primary source, really, since it often is of that period of time. The kids have now lost a primary source of information. And if it's transferred somewhere, it's too bad the link that dies doesn't say, find this here.
Yeah.
But
on a
the
waiting
other thing
page.
is, too, is that I believe that the Wayback Machine or the Internet Archive encourages users, and I don't know the process because I haven't had to use it, that you can save pages so that they're not lost. And so that's one of the ways maybe we're going to be able to save some of this material, is more librarians and teachers who use these resources, save them to the Internet Archive.
Interesting. Yeah.
I haven't looked in depth to it, but it's something that be nice to be featured. Like, it's some American Library Association session, somebody from the Internet Archive come in and address how we can help keep our history alive by using it.
Welcome to LiveBinder's Organized Success podcast. That was Linda Houle, a former librarian and technology facilitator from CUSD 201 in Westmont, Illinois, who is a longtime LiveBinders curator and who is helping me, Tina Schneider, founder of LiveBinders, sort through and discover some of the great content curated right here on our website. That clip you just heard comes directly after an interview we gave with Elizabeth Kahn, who is the library media specialist at Patrick Taylor Science and Technology Academy in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. That was on March 12th, 2020, literally days before all of our lives changed by COVID-19 lockdown. And at the time, we were talking about how life changed in Louisiana after the catastrophic natural disaster known as Hurricane Katrina. Now, that was such an insightful discussion about a number of issues that Linda and I didn't even realize was going to be covered in that talk. And yet it was so important to reflect upon. So as I was preparing for this preemptive discussion, summarizing our interview, I was going to cover a lot of the same stuff, but it's now changed. Today is June 6th, 2020, literally 10 days after the wrongful death of George Floyd. And I have to acknowledge that there are major events going on in our society that do not go without reflection here for me, and why I feel compelled to announce and release this podcast during some turbulent times when we are far from ready to go back to normal, but are ready to begin a new cycle. Life needs to move forward, but not without some poignant reminders to keep our focus on what we feel today is right for tomorrow. In this interview, we walk through the Hurricane Katrina LiveBinder, and Linda and I go through our interpretation, but we knew that hearing directly from her would answer so many questions. Elizabeth candidly gives us so much more that I'm not even sure she realizes how poignant her revelations and commitment really mean. By acting out on her instincts and intuition, she clearly demonstrates how important our role as custodians to historical events really are. And here's why. In 2005, those of us old enough will remember Hurricane Katrina and how devastating it was to New Orleans and the towns, schools, and people who were displaced by it. Fear was palpable. But through time, as time often illustrates, the impact, the trauma, the fear starts to fade. Elizabeth has a simple epiphany. A generation of students are growing up without any knowledge of this devastation and how it impacted their own families' lives. Elizabeth does what librarians are trained to do. She goes out and finds information, resources that can help tell the story of what happened. She vets information, and then she goes a step further. She builds a narrative in the way she organizes her resources. In this case, she puts them in a digital binder because so many things that she wanted to illustrate is captured on film. She starts to build activities that she can share with teachers to be the medium through which she can distribute this body of work. It moves from one classroom to many classrooms to even classrooms outside of the neighborhood she is trying to preserve. But there is something that happened that is unique only to this digital world. Those primary sources started disappearing. And that's the part where you hear Linda and I reflecting upon in the beginning of this podcast. Elizabeth brings this up as something that is part of her daily routine, but it is significantly more revealing about her commitment to the cause and to what it takes to keep a history alive. Video clips taken by news agencies were disappearing from the internet. Why do you think that is? What happens when primary resources disappear? Does the history disappear? If you haven't appreciated your librarian recently, now is the time to think about that in the context of learning. Now, here is why it is so interesting to listen to this podcast and apply it to today. How does what Elizabeth did with Hurricane Katrina work with the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter protests going on with the recent racial oppressive events that we all know will fade as the media interests fade? How do we become the custodians for historical events? How do we make sure that we don't let history repeat itself? The heroes of destabilizing events are often those that learn how to take small steps and make them tangibly accessible. Thank you, Elizabeth, for all of this. Let's begin and get organized. It's nice to meet you, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
I'm here with Linda Houle, who is also a longtime LiveBinders user, and she's been working with me to, I find so many great binders lately that, with her experience as a former librarian, she can give me some insight about the education side, whereas I'm looking at, the design and the messaging and all of that. So it's been great to have her with me, and I had her kind of go out and look at some binders, public binders. And so she discovered yours.
Well, I'm very proud of this one. And this particular binder is my second for this project because so many of the links along the way have disappeared. And I've had to make sure it's got the kind of content I wanted. And one year I copied it, which was easy to do. I copied it and then got rid of everything that didn't work and replaced it. But it was easier for me to copy it and then edit rather than edit directly, because I wanted to save some of the old links just in case
they come back.
They might come back, or they may be available at some other time.
Yeah. I'll kind of go over briefly, what points we really liked about it so you can hear about it and respond. And then we'd love for you to tell us what the binder is all about, because, we obviously don't know. We were just admiring your work. And I thought we'd begin by having you introduce yourself and the school that you work at.
My name's Elizabeth Kahn. I am the librarian at Patrick Taylor Science and Technology Academy. And the school has been around since 2004. It's relatively new. But I was the first librarian here in 2006, and 2005 in our area was Hurricane Katrina. And in 2005, I was working in New Orleans, and after Katrina hit in late August and sometime in the fall, I don't remember, maybe it was sometime in September, every single teacher was fired. And there were 8,000 teachers who were without a job. I did actually go back to New Orleans in January of 2006, but the position that I had, I wasn't happy with what they wanted for a librarian. And so the next parish next to Orleans Parish is Jefferson. And I had heard that a new school, Patrick Taylor, was looking for a librarian, and I applied and got the position. So I haven't looked back since. This is my 14th year here, and it has been a wonderful journey, creating a new library. And we were at a oldie moldy school for 7 years, and they built us a brand new building. And so I'm in a brand new building for the last 7 years.
Nice.
And we serve kids in grades 6 through 12. And we are a one-to-one laptop school, the only one in our district. And so we try to, deliver as much content electronically as we can. We do use a school learning management system called Echo, which I do use, but when I create materials for my students in the library, I like to use tools like LiveBinder, because that way I can share them out. And they aren't just, if you do something with an Echo, it's only for our school. And I like to develop tools that other librarians can see and use. And I can actually, when we talk more, I can explain how we did a joint project one year with this LiveBinder with the school in Iowa. So,
oh, great.
And yeah, so they have the resources. So that's been really wonderful. So LiveBinders is a tool that I learned about when I went to one of our conference, LaQ, which is the Louisiana Computer Using Educators. It's the Louisiana branch of ISTE.
Yeah.
And they had their annual conference, and I went to a session on LiveBinders, but it was one of the ones that was hands-on, where you have a computer and you start it. And I really liked it. And I don't even remember what year that was. And once I got back to school, I said, oh, this is for me. So I've been creating them ever since then.
So when we discovered this binder, what I want to do is kind of tell you what we loved about the binder, and then you can kind of share with us why you started it and all of that. So first of all, we go through and look at binders that are updated, on a daily basis, that are public. And yours came out. Now I'm just looking at your shelf here. Obviously you've got some great public binders here. But one of the things that I look for first, I follow a 6 C's method. Cover, color. Are you putting context in it? Are you conscientious? And there were a few others that are blanking out for me right now. Linda, you can. Content, yes. And you kind of covered all of it. Like as soon as I look at this binder, so the first thing I look for is cover, right? Great, compelling cover. So obviously you got the heart of Hurricane Katrina right there. And if you were looking at the larger binder icon, if you were looking at this video, you could see that this was a monster of an event. So right away, you've got a cover on the binder. We open up the binder, and if you're looking at the video, you'll see this beautiful dark blue. It's not black, it's a blue background with a lighter blue main tab. So you're definitely not just putting information together, you're choosing some colors. And then I pointed out in our podcast that I noticed that the color of the subtabs matched the color of the image. Now, I don't know if you did that on purpose, but that to me was like,
oh, no, I don't think I did. I don't think I thought about that.
Okay, well, I just liked everything about that part. So automatically, yes, this is a binder that we need to look at. And then obviously the content is compelling. You're putting together for a specific class, it's communicated right away that this is for the 7th grade project, the history of Hurricane Katrina. So it's not just, facts and pictures and stuff. You're actually trying to give an overview of what went on with Katrina. So, and the tabs kind of tell that story here. You have this nicely laid out tabs that give instructions to the students. So context wise, when I talk about context, I talk about, are you taking advantage of our tab system to communicate to your audience. So you can put things in, you know, on an email attachment, or maybe copy links to a document and share it, or upload files, but in a folder. But how do you explain to your audience what to do with that file or what to do with that link? So what's nice about what we did with the binder is you can add text to the tab. So when I find an author that takes advantage of that, I think that's a definite win. So here, for example, you know, in the first tab, you say Pathfinder must complete. So if a student's looking at this, they don't look at anything else, they're going to know right away they got to complete this tab. So I like that. And then you've got a Google Doc in here that's explaining the Pathfinder project. But at the top, again, you're adding context. You're saying, go to the file menu and select make a copy, you put it in quotes, of the Pathfinder below, add the Pathfinder to your Google Drive, answer all the questions using resources in this LiveBinder. So the student may be hearing it over and over again in the classroom, and when they're ready to actually dive into this project, they're getting another visual reminder of exactly what they need. There's a comfort level in that, and I appreciate how you do that through the binder.
Well, one thing is they come for one day to the library when I introduce the LiveBinder, and they start working on it that day, but they're not going to finish it that day. So, you know, along the way, they can come see me in the library if they have issues with it, but they're not scheduled in again. So I need to know that they have all the information right there, so they don't need me in the room to get what they need done. I mean, the teacher knows, because I mean, I've been working with the teacher all along the way, and because I edit this every year, you know, there were issues, you know, early on with the Google Doc, you know, I don't know how to add to it, you know, and so I just said, okay, go to the, you know, I have the directions. Most of the kids know now, make a copy. But when we first started using Google Docs a number of years ago, kids didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not bad to leave the instructions in for the kids who might need it.
Exactly. And you can do that. And so those are the things that I look for. And as you know, if our audience goes and starts exploring this binder, you'll see that you have, you know, instructions along each, you know, different tab here, which I really, really liked. The other thing that we look for is cleverness. That was the other C. So cleverness. So this project down here, if you look at the book cover ad tab, and again, look at all the context that instructions that she's got here. Right below it, you have Roger's first period book ads, Roger's second period book ads, and you put the students' work on a Padlet that has a picture of Hurricane Katrina. And, you know, what's funny is it's a wall, right? So we're talking about the wall and Katrina and how, you know, the levees all failed. But you've got their work up here. You're highlighting it. It reminded me of, you know, when I was in school and I would see projects up on the bulletin board, you know, of the work that we did, and was kind of highlighting the students' work. And I thought, what a clever way to include the students in your binder and the work that they did.
I don't remember when you could first embed Padlets in LiveBinders. It was a number of years ago. I got so excited. I said, oh, this will be great. So I've used it ever since. But you can see, well, if you look at that particular class, some of the kids didn't really, even though they tried to let everyone view their document, it didn't work so well. But most of them you can see. Well, and part of this project is they all read different historical fiction that take place during Hurricane Katrina. So that's what that particular assignment was responding to the literature of Hurricane Katrina that they read about Hurricane Katrina.
And how did you know to like think about putting their student projects in a Padlet? Like, what was the thought process?
I don't remember. Well, you know, I don't know. I think it's because so I could see them, so they don't, you know, because the teacher has to grade them, and they'll, you know, a lot of work that they do in the library, we started, and I never see the results because I don't, you know, I mean, we have 800 kids. I can't have 800 kids sharing work with me. I mean, it's too much. Right. But I can go. But if we do things like having the Padlet with the work, I can go and look at the work.
Right. Well, it certainly makes it easier, right? Because it's all right there, which is nice.
And the teacher can grade it from there too.
Right.
And
It
so that
also
makes
lets
it
you
makes
know
it.
what else you may need to do the next time around if
Well,
something is missing or lacking.
that's exactly right, Linda, because I
Yeah.
will create lessons or assignments and the teachers are thrilled about it. But if I don't see the final result, I don't know where the bumps are that need to be
Right.
fixed. And so I really need to see what the final products look like to make sure the kids got what it was. And this particular product, I learned how to do this. This is something new. This is only the second year I've done it. And I found out about, somebody posted it on social media, and they used it as a way, instead of doing a book, book report, to do this book ad. And I tell the kids, we're calling it a book ad, but you have to respond, because in the LiveBinder, there are specific questions they have to respond to on this book ad that they do. I said, but I'm calling it a book ad so that if we do this type of activity again, you'll know exactly what I mean. When I say book ad, they'll know. And it was using Google Drawing, which I had never used before. And I think they're attractive and fun, and the kids get their text in and do their response that the teachers want, but they get the fun part too. So, that one didn't pop up. Some of them, the kids did not give permission. You should be able to get into most of them.
Well, I appreciate that, because that's the other question, that I wanted to ask you, kind of separate from this, is, there are student names on here, so I can block them all in the video. I don't know what the policy is.
Well, my thought about that is, you're not seeing the kid's picture. You don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the name, because it's only their work. It's not a picture of them.
Yeah.
I tend to, on my blog, when I post kids, I never put their name. I just put, I have pictures of the kids doing, and I'll say the 7th graders doing XYZ, but I don't really think it's a major issue if you have the name but no picture of them.
Okay. I did look to see that those pictures were just pictures of the author, or
Right.
and
They
I
don't.
did go in there. Okay, great.
Right.
Okay, good. So the other thing I was going to say is the content is very, everything they need is in here. I was mentioning in our review of it that you even had, links to these private, image search tools right here in the binder. So they don't have to remember where to go. It's all right here for them to get to, which is just, it's very thorough.
And we know 7th graders do need that guidance, because I worked with junior high kids for 15 years, so I know.
Well, this is when they're learning to get organized, right? So you want to give them an example, and this is a great example of how they can learn to be organized in the digital world, right? You just break it down and, label things correctly and use color coding if you need to.
In many ways, I see what you have here is like a model for the digital project. So you've almost modeled for the kids, but instead of actually doing it, you're sharing the resources they'll need to accomplish it.
And, as a librarian, you want to teach the kids how to find information. You want them to do research, but there are projects and activities and lessons where you don't want them to spend the time you want them to spend the time on reading the information and producing something, and not the time just seeking it out.
Right.
And that in this case, I don't need them to do the research for it. Let me do that. And then I want them to read. And in this case, I want them to listen, because there are a number of audio links in there, and to watch the videos. And that takes me to part of the reason I really like putting this particular assignment in a LiveBinder is, with Hurricane Katrina, you can read all you want, but when you see the videos of people standing on their roofs, or people standing around the Superdome after they've been there for days, and how they look, a picture gives you, is worth 1,000 words. They can see so much better. And so, and that's part of the reason I've had to redo this LiveBinder so many times, is a lot of the video I have found was from different news agencies, but they'll take links down.
Yeah.
And we also, the school district had a subscription to NBC Learn, I think that's what it's called, NBC Learn, a number of years ago, and they had all the content from all NBC News, and that was wonderful. And I had the LiveBinder filled with that. And then they didn't renew NBC again. So I had to go out and find other links. And
Oh,
then
wow.
there've been times when YouTube has been totally blocked at school and I couldn't show any
Oh
YouTube
my
videos.
goodness.
But now there are some, and just some of the videos just disappear. So I really think the videos are crucial for this project. And if you just were in the, and I've pulled resources. We have the Gale databases. I have a number of links to articles
Yeah.
in Gale, but you also had shown a link from Wikipedia. And generally I discourage my kids from using Wikipedia, but I try to tell them it's not all bad. And that when we're talking about the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans, there isn't necessarily a lot out there. And the Wikipedia article, it gives you information. And I said, if you can find this information here and then find it somewhere else, we can verify that it's accurate and reliable. But
Right.
sometimes, Wikipedia might be the only place to find anything. So I do have it in here, and I've left it in here.
Well, it's like a start, right? It gets their
Right.
mind to wrap around what are the questions? What did I not find? What did I find? And can I validate it? Yeah, it's sometimes it's the first stepping stone. But yeah, I mean, looking at I'm not running the video, but you can just see already the devastation on some of these
Right.
images. And that was the other thing I noticed, is that in every tab, there's a picture related to what happened with Hurricane Katrina, and the information that you give at the top of that tab, where it came
Well, I have
from.
to give credit.
Yeah.
Because we teach our kids to show where they get their images, and I make sure that I do the same.
Well, I love this picture because I can feel the panic. This is a picture of, traffic heading out away from the storm. You can see the storm clouds in the background, and it's, if you've ever been in traffic and you're thinking you need to get out of there, this picture really captures it. It's a great picture. This one
I
is
was
the
in that
flooding.
number.
Oh, were you?
Well, I had to evacuate. Yeah, I was
Well,
out of my
yeah.
house for over 3 weeks.
This one is of a neighborhood completely submerged. I mean, the houses are all under, I don't know, 6 feet of water. This one, I think it's this one here. This one. So this is a house with a truck upside down under the house. So you can see the ripple effect of the house trying to, cradle the car that is underneath it. It's incredible, incredible photograph. So, as the kids are going through this binder, they're starting to get the message.
Right.
It's very inclusive, it's a very contained environment, but it definitely, everything that you've done is making the message very clear. So that's what I think we were going to ask Ness is, what really was this project for? How did you start it? Why did you start it? I don't know if we covered that.
Okay. No, we didn't. And I have a lot to say about that. I hope I don't talk too long. All right. So we started this project over 7 years ago because we were at the old building. And I have worked with about 5 or 6. We've had a number of different 7th grade teachers. And ever since it started, I'm the only one who's been with the project all along the way. But it is really part of our 7th grade curriculum now. So it started initially because the author, Jewel Parker Rhodes, who had written a book called Ninth Ward, was coming to visit our school. And she came to school, and she'd written adult books. It was her first book for young people. Now she's written about 5 or 6 for young people. And she's actually visited our school twice now and Skyped with us once. It's hard, she's very busy, so it's hard to connect with her every year, but I would like to. But anyway, she came to school. And so we started talking about Katrina, and the 7th grade, there's Jewel, and the 7th grade at that time were maybe 4 or 5 when Katrina hit. So that's about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, they don't know anything about Katrina. We need to do something about that. So we started, and we had the PE teacher at the time drove the school bus, and our whole 7th grade was small. And the whole school, we drove down and we took a tour of the Ninth Ward.
Wonderful.
And it was kind of crazy because at that time, there were still lots of houses that had not been touched, but there were also empty lots. And we're just walking. I mean, it was the craziest thing in the world because we're walking among whatever was on the road.
Devastation,
And the kids,
right?
devastation. It was being cleaned up, but still, it was kind of crazy to take 7th graders there. And we had, I think, 5 stops on our tour. And I came back thinking, this is the best field trip ever. I mean, ever.
Yeah.
And I hadn't created the LiveBinder yet, but I think the next year I said, we need to prepare. If we're going to take these kids on the field trip, we need to prepare them. So we start with we always read for years, we just read the 9th ward, and then a new 7th grade teacher came in and said, I think we need to offer more books. So we give them a choice of 4, all historical fiction about Katrina, and see which one they want to read. And I want, the research piece, because they need to learn about Katrina, because most of them, well, now the kids weren't even born. I think this is the first year that none of the kids were born. Maybe last year some might have been infants.
Yeah.
But so I started with the Pathfinder to get them to start learning about what we were going to do on the field trip when we went. And it's grown from there. The digital scrapbook, we've only been doing, which is embedded in the LiveBinder, we've only doing for about 3 years, maybe, or 4 years. And the students don't report on the historical fiction. They use their research and then their visit on the field trip to document in the digital scrapbook. And it also includes an interview of a family member or someone they know who's gone through Katrina, so they could give them their story.
Right.
But a number of years ago, and we've been doing this so long, it's hard to remember, we decided we wanted to put a service learning piece into this project. And there is a local foundation, the Brown Foundation, that gives service learning grants. And one of the teachers wrote a grant. And now part of this project, we go down to Dr. King Charter School in the 9th ward, and we work with 1st graders, and the 7th graders put on a play. We bring them books that we're going to hand the kids. There's Dr. King. And what else we do? And we do an activity with them. They provide snack, and we provide books and a blank book and crayons, and we do a whole project with the kids at Dr. King's school. And the Brown Foundation has been funding this for so many years, and they love this project so much that our local PBS station is doing a special on 4 schools and their service learning projects. And one of the schools they selected is ours for our 9th ward project. So the videographers from the PBS station have come to school a couple of times to film us, and they went with us on our field trip that we took in February. So
recently, this February.
Oh, this February.
Month.
Yeah, I think we went February 12th. Yeah, and it's pretty. And I can share with you some of the digital scrapbooks if you'd like to see.
Yeah.
I don't have any of the final products of that in the LiveBinder, but I can share with you if you'd like to see some of them.
Yeah, I can. If we can share it, I'll share it too with the podcast page and all that. Are you going to be adding it to the binder though? Or will you?
I wasn't. I was going to post them. I usually post on my blog. My blog was created in 2009, and I was dedicated to posting weekly. And I run out of steam. You know, there's just so much time in the day, and that doesn't affect the kids. So, there's some things I've had to kind of drop. I still have the blog and I do post, but not as frequently. And maybe I'll put it up there. And
if it's fine with links. The school and everything. Yeah. And then I can post to your blog to go to everyone to see that.
And I post students' pictures in my blog all the time. I just don't put their names in there.
Okay.
So I don't feel, because we post student pictures. Well, we post student pictures to social media for school. But it's been a long road, and every year I think it gets a little better. I mean, I have to say some of the videos we've lost have been sort of disappointing. The local newspaper had a wonderful interactive. It wasn't really a video, but it was an interactive tool online where you could watch the waters come into New Orleans on a map and really see where it went. And that disappeared about 2 years
Oh,
ago.
no.
And I thought, oh, that was such a good visual for the kids. But what my favorite, one of my favorite, besides the field trip, which is wonderful, one of my favorite things with this project is when the kids are on the LiveBinder and I say, okay, you can all watch the videos, but here are headphones, or you can use your own earpods or whatever, but quiet. And you're watching all the kids, with their eyes glued to the screen while they're watching the videos with their headphones on.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's really, I just see their interest in it.
Yeah.
And they are very interested, and I really, it's an iconic part of our history. And everybody has a Katrina story. Not the kids, families do, and some of the kids now some of the kids have moved in since Katrina. Their families don't, and a number of kids. I think I had 2 or 3 interview me for their digital scrapbook, so I could tell them my Katrina story.
Right.
So I didn't lose my house, but I lost my job and didn't know that I'd ever get one again.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, and so everybody was affected.
Right. Well, it's, you said the best field trip ever. Your binder reminds me of a field trip. It's a digital field trip, right? It's an
Right.
exploration
Right.
of an event, and you're trying to capture to make an impact. I mean, this is, they watch special effects all day long, right? But this is actually their home. This is real. It can be very personal, or it could be very personal, right? They live in a land that
Right.
have another one.
Right.
And it really
And,
is a useful tool for anybody because you provide some
Right.
fantastic information, and that's what I think librarians are all about. So we like to make sure everybody gets to benefit, not just our kids.
So let me explain two things that I just want to make sure I talk about. When we first started, we could fit all of our 7th grade on one bus. Then we could fit our 7th grade on 2 buses. Well, now our 7th grade is 125 kids. It's too many. And when we go on the service learning project to the Dr. King School, about 70 kids, and they have like 70 first graders. We can't fit any more first graders. And we tried to figure out a way to have the kids who couldn't fit in the school do another service learning project the same day in the 9th ward, and that just proved too difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So now only half of our 7th grade gets to go on the field trip. So we want to make sure all of them get the experience. So we've got the LiveBinder for them, and I just feel like they get a lot from it because there's so much there. But we've also added a piece. This is the 2nd year we've done this for the kids who don't go on the field trip. We bring in some people, though I could tell my story that kids listen, they hear me talk all the time. So we bring in some people from the community to come tell their stories to the kids who don't go on the field trip. And this year we had a man who was a nurse in the Orleans Parish Prison during Katrina, and had his father evacuated to the prison with him. I couldn't hear it. I wanted to hear him because I thought that sounded fascinating. I couldn't because I had two people I knew came in, both of whom lost their houses in Katrina, and I wanted them to talk about what that was like and how it was getting back. And so, and I think those kids really enjoyed that. I mean, I wish everybody could go on the field trip, but it's a problem with numbers.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I want to talk about is for several years, and it's just hard to get together. We were working with a school in Iowa, in a 7th grade English class, and they would read the 9th ward, and our kids would read the 9th ward. And we did several activities where we shared information about each other online. We did a Zoom like we're doing now. We did a Zoom where they could talk to each other online, and when we were coordinating with them, they would take the LiveBinder and they did the Pathfinder too. So that was very cool. And they would post, well, actually we weren't doing those book ads in the Padlet. I had some other prompt in the Padlet, and our kids posted in the Padlet from my school, but the kids from Iowa posted in the Padlet, and then they could read each other's.
Oh, cool.
And
That's
that was
great.
very cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was cool too. And it's coordinating. What happened, I think, last year is we couldn't find, even though they're in Central Time, which does make it a little easier, they didn't meet at the same time we did, and it was hard to pull our kids, and we couldn't figure out a way that they could be together at the same time,
Oh.
because we also did Skype with them.
Uh-huh.
So yes, I'd like to bring that back, but sometimes things don't always work out. But
So
that,
why Iowa? Like, it may be
well,
my naivete. Okay.
well, we made a connection. I made a connection with a librarian there,
Okay.
Shannon Miller, who's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And she's very active, and she helped me make a connection, and that they're on Central Time made it a little easier. And when we were talking about Hurricane Katrina, they have tornadoes, and so we were talking,
Okay.
we were sort of having this, what do we do for hurricanes? What do they do for tornadoes?
Right. Natural disasters. They can relate on that. Okay.
But really, you need somebody on the other end, on each end, who is motivated to make the connections work. It does take work to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so Shannon was able to help us, and and she had a teacher who was wonderful. And then another teacher came on board in 7th grade, and she was great too, but timing was difficult. And often, I have to say this with making the connection, often my teachers and their teachers didn't know exactly what classes they were going to teach until school started. So even though, like, we were ready to make plans over the summer, if you end up, school starts and you're not teaching that grade level, it's kind of hard. So we do our best.
It's great. I mean, it's just wonderful to see you guys taking on a huge challenge like this and not being deterred. Like you're not going to know until you do it, what the challenges really are. It's a hurdle for sure. It's technology, it's time zone, it's land, mass, it's not right around the corner, but that's what I just admire that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really important to break down the walls of the school. And even though Hurricane Katrina is just a few miles away, where, the area where our school is didn't flood, but
who knows?
It is just a few miles away, but the kids don't. And the 9th Ward, our kids have never visited the 9th Ward. It's a 30-minute drive, which isn't very far, but it's like a whole new world to our kids when we go down there.
Yeah.
What would you say to other librarians about the value of LiveBinders to the program, and how you might encourage them to use it for something that they would be doing on this level, or something more or less?
Well, the nice thing about it, it's all there. And, the next year you just go through to look at it to make sure everything's still working. You can make edits. It's, I don't ever stay static, even though we've been doing this 9th Ward project for so long. There've been lots of things, we had the connection with Iowa. We don't now. We never, the digital scrapbook is only a couple of years old. That lots of things you could add to it and make it richer and richer. And I like seeing that growth. And I know about that. That sort of makes me feel good. That's just sort of gives me affirmation. But there's so many ways to use it. One of my other LiveBinders that has gotten a tremendous amount of use is, we're 612 school, and I made a LiveBinder with scholarship opportunities for my students. And that one has been, the kids say, I don't know any scholarships. I said, well, did you look at my LiveBinder? How many times have I told you about it? And if you click the tab for national, some of it's specific to us in Louisiana, but if you look at for national scholarships, if you click that tab and look how many tabs are under it.
Is it titled national? Because I'll do the search.
I thought so.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. See, all of those are scholarships. And I've shared this binder with friends, other people in New Orleans, Louisiana, around us in Louisiana, because the local scholarships, some are specific to New Orleans, some to Louisiana. But I've also told librarians, you can copy it and then just delete the stuff that's only pertains to us.
Yeah.
And that's the other cool thing about LiveBinders. When people make them copy ready, which I've done certainly with this, you can borrow somebody else's essentially and make it your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing. And there's so many LiveBinders out there. So if you don't even have an idea of doing something, go look
Right.
to see what's out there. So this one has been really, and I did another one similar to this on ACT and SAT prep, free prep for the kids. But I think this one I haven't had to redo. It's edited every year. And I learned some lessons on this because originally when I first made this, I put the exact date when deadlines were. And then I realized that means I have to go every year and check and change it. And I don't have time to do that. So then I just tell them, sometimes there's always the same deadline, but some it's, early March, mid-March, and I'll put that so I don't have to go edit it every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you the only librarian? Or do you
Yes, we have 800 kids. I'm the only librarian. I have no help, no clerical help. I can enlist student help. I can get parent help if I'm desperate, and I've had volunteers when I've needed them. Let's just say that I can get volunteers in when I need them. So, but I am it. When I started in the school in 2006, we had 175 kids, and now we have 800. So
yeah.
we've really grown.
So I know Linda has told me that no greater sharer is our teachers, right? I think you told me that.
Yes. Yeah. The greatest sharers there are. We share everything.
And there was one thing that I wanted to point out, I'm going back to this, is historical fiction. I just loved what you did. Obviously, the Google and the iTunes books are not going to display their websites on this page, but you took the time to put images in of every book cover.
Well, that's what I wanted. And I think I put asterisks by the ones that the students use in I think because I have more than 4, and only 4 of them are are read, but I wanted to let the kids know there are other ones in our library. So that's why, and I thought, I just think the visuals are really important.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yes, definitely. They say don't judge a book by the cover, but we know how that goes.
My kids tell me all the time, they definitely look at the cover.
I sure do still now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a great way to, you articulated it very well. That was one of the things that Linda and I were talking about, is what a great way to engage the students initially is through the historical fiction,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be written at their level to engage them, and then they can go find out more details.
And a big piece when they do that book ad, and maybe I shouldn't call it a book ad because it really isn't, but we want them to respond. How did the book show what they, through their research, did it match their research? Is this really what people went through? And I think that was a real important piece for the kids, to read a book and then find out through research, is that what the people experienced?
Yeah. Well, I think we took up an hour of your time. I am so thankful that you came on. This was very enriching. I mean, we fell in love with your binder. It looked like an amazing piece of work, and you just verified it with the passion and the success of your students with the program. Obviously, your school is going on and doing some great things. Linda and I were wondering about the Martin Luther King link down here. What was the connection? And I'm so glad you got to explain that. And there goes your band.
Yeah, there's the band, right?
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Yes.
You're welcome. This has been fun.
Yeah, definitely fun for us. And Linda, you found a great source.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you discovered it.
And I'm just hearing you, we think a lot alike. I may have been retired for a while now, but your ideas and my ideas click. So
Good.
Delightful to hear how all of this came about, since I worked with many of the same kinds of things. So keep up the work, and I'm going to be looking for more of your binders, and I'm going to go check out the other ones as well.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye now.